obviously, Sarah, I'm not doing great because I got voted off
Mhm.
in an interesting unorthodox boot episode. There really was not much suspense. And then, of course, I'm sick, hence the sweater, hence the
Oh, I'm
hat.
sorry.
But
Mm,
nice to be talking to you at least.
well, thank you. I appreciate you speaking with me. I mean, I loved your game. I want to say congrats on playing a phenomenal game, won an immunity. I mean, you looked like you were riding high on the top, easy peasy, running strategy, always had the numbers, and then just boom, you're out.
It
Is that how it felt to you?
it felt like that too. Let me tell you. It's funny. It really felt very easy up until that point in the game. And then all it took was a little slip up, a little miscalculation of the numbers, letting Emily go, probably a mistake. Bruce not playing his idol, probably a mistake. But it was just those small little, desedimentations just brought down the whole building on me at Final
Mhm.
Six. That was tough, obviously. But yeah, I'll segue this into talking about tribal, right? Because that really is the moment of collapse. That's the car crash. That's the wreck. Um, but I was so confident all day, right? Because falling back to your question, I felt like I'd played a really great game. I felt like I had the resume, I had the chops, I had the positioning. Um, and then at Tribal, the answers were a little funny, and I had a conversation just beforehand that kind of freaked me out. And I started to realize that, like, oh my god, this could be the night. Like maybe it's nothing, but this could be the night. And then it was.
Did you and Austin have any sort of strategic conversations on how to play that amulet?
Yeah, so of course we did. And I think if one of us had won immunity, it would have been played on the other. So D's win was
Mhm.
really a pivotal immunity win. Um, that being said, during the day, we really felt so confident, so wildly confident our plan was going to work. Because how could it not? Like Julie just made this huge idol play. She's a huge threat. To go to the end with her would be really foolish. Why not? Why not cut her? So that I think that logical continuation from my perspective made it very easy for me to see ghosts and believe that everyone was solid when they weren't. That being said, again, I had this interaction just before tribal really rubbed me the wrong way. And so I'm running to find Austin. Like, oh my God, like we got to talk about this idol, this immunity. Should what do you think? Like, are you picking up these reads? And then of course it's like lockdown. We got to go to tribal council. So I never had that conversation. It's tough.
What was this interaction? Can you tell me?
It was just it was just talking to somebody about Austin's idol.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, it's weird that this is a point of conversation. It's weird this is being brought up. Something's going on. Why? Why am I talking about Austin's idol? And then some of the interactions that we had at Tribal, D being like, you can't trust anybody, which for me was, not the answer I might have given because I trusted people. So I thought that was kind of a little funny. Um, and yeah, so
Well,
I started to get nervous.
so let's go back a tribal. It sounds like you bought Dee's acting. Were you sold that she had not told
I did
Julie
not.
about the
I didn't
plan?
think that he told Julie explicitly. I felt like that in myself certainly, and then also maybe in D two that the reception to the news that we wanted to go after Julie might have been evident just based on like changes in behavior. And like I think that D and Austin had a long conversation about the move that you saw on the beach. But from my understanding, I wasn't there obviously. It was a very long conversation, and Julie might have stumbled into it in the middle. So um, basically we all knew it was in the air. And so like, yeah, we didn't think D told her certainly explicitly, but we thought that like, at the very least, it had leaked somehow from myself or D probably.
Right. But at this time, you think you have Dee still with you and you guys
100%.
can
Her social
just
game is amazing. Yeah. No, I thought that D would be with me because all the conversations we had were great. I felt
yeah.
that it would be a mistake for her to go to the end with Julie, who played such a similar game in a lot of respects. Um, and yeah, I got hoodwinked.
Did you have any idea that Austin and Dee had become that close?
I mean, it would be hard, not to have an idea at that point. But what really threw you was that it happened so late. It wasn't as if it had been in the water the whole season, and just kind of finally at the end, they get tired of waiting. It's like, um, no, it just happened right at the end of the game. So then you're kind of in a situation where you're like halfway there, and suddenly the plans have changed. The car is broken down, and it's like, do I go find a new car? Do I try and fix this one up? Like, what do I do? So that was definitely the suddenness of the showmance. Yeah, that was tough.
How did you and Austin stay off of everyone's radar as a power duo? Like as a viewer, we're like, break them up. But yet everybody I talk to comes out and is like, I thought I was working with Drew.
Yeah, I mean, like the reality is that Austin and I very similar on a more essential level, but on a surface level, pretty different. He's jacked. He's very good socially. I'm kind of a klutz. We didn't really have strategic conversations with us and another person. We would
Mhm.
have individual ones, then we would come back and share notes, and then we would go to that other person and like share what we had heard they wanted to do from the other person. And so they'd be like, wow, we're so on the same page. But in actuality, okay, Austin told me you wanted to do this, and then vice versa. So that was really effective. I think that there was maybe a little bit element of underestimation. Like I think people maybe saw like Austin as a challenge beast. And he did pick up on the fact he goes to U Chicago. He's really intelligent. He's great at puzzles, and maybe underestimated him unduly in that part. I always estimated him, properly. I was like, this dude is the full package. A triple threat. He's got everything.
Let's go back a little bit to the swap.
Okay,
You you had this lovely honest moment where you were like, nah, Brando, I'm good. I'd prefer to get you out. What
lovely is a new descriptor for it. I'll take that for sure.
I mean, I appreciate honesty, but I wondered if that was the right move, but it never seemed to come back to get you. What was your thinking there?
I mean, I'd love to tell you that like, oh, it was all strategic, and I think that a lot of these interviews, there is a little bit of revision. So again, take everything I say a grain of salt. But I was just frustrated because Brando had come up to Austin and I, and he made this alliance, and I felt like he was making alliances with everybody. And here's a new alliance that gets made, and we haven't had like a one-on-one discussion yet about like direction. And so I was just kind of like, dude, I know what's up. Like you're trying to like get all this fancy footwork, so I'll get tangled in it, and then you incriminate me to Emily, and you guys can win the flip. Because at that point, there was really a mentality, at least on Reba, that it was Reba versus Bello, and we had to feel
Mhm.
like they felt similarly just based on like Bruce perceivedly being in command and his caginess at the journey with Brandon. The swap is very complicated. The other thing I'll say is that Bruce was like protect Brando to I think Kendra, but people saw it, and so from my perspective, then there really wasn't an illusion that Brando would want to work with Reba, and so I was like, if it's not going to happen, why pretend?
Mhm. Was Emily just a swing vote number, or was there something about working with her?
No, Emily was the number one person I wanted to work with coming in, just because of her vibe. Very similar to me, I think, in a lot of ways. Certainly an approach to the game, the honesty. She was playing on her Nintendo DS at pregame, so I was like, "That's my girl." Like that's who we got to network with. And it's funny. During when Brandon went down on the barge, he had a moment, and medical was called in. I don't think we saw the full extent of it, but it was just kind of downtime. And so it was a very weird moment where at the beginning of the game, all the tribes could talk to each other, right? And we were kind of just we weren't joking around because everyone wants to make sure if Brandon's okay, but there is kind of a little bit of a feeling out. We're not going to let this opportunity. And like the rapport, Emily and I instantly was just like off the charts. And so I was like, this is who I'm. And so I was so happy to see her.
Okay, so then when I mean, you're blindsided that she left, she's out. Did you realize like how much that might impact your game?
Well, I got to tell you that it wasn't really a blind side. We all thought that Julie was going to play. I thought that Julie was, if she played the outer, she was going to go for Emily.
Right.
It was kind of just an eventuality we accepted because Emily was a huge jury threat, and very lovable. Everyone liked Emily. Everyone loved Emily. Actually, very popular. But letting her go was a big mistake because she really was very loyal. Felt like she kept a lot of my strategic excesses in check. You know, talking with her was always kind of very leveling and would help me come to the right conclusion. And I think in the absence of that, I was overconfident at Final Six, and I didn't think through like the possibilities and the modalities in the way I needed to.
Hmm. And what was the big impetus to go for Julie at that time?
For sure. So it's funny because the way they portrayed it in the show, and this easily could be true. It's certainly what Dee, Julie, and Austin thought was that I was eager to break up the four, But I went after Julie because I felt like Julie was making way too many preparations for an end game that didn't include us. She had this
Mhm.
really solid relationship with Bruce, you know, that she didn't, it almost to the point that she wasn't that keen on voting him out, it seemed like. And then she'd been making Final Three deals. Katura and Emily come back to me and they're like, "Oh, Julie made a Final Three deal with us on the reward." I'm like, "What the heck, Julie? Like if I'm finding out about this, like how many are there? You know, like how profligate is this?" I felt basically that Julie was making plans to divorce the Reba family, to leave the house, and that made me uncomfortable because I got the sense that I was not included in these plans.
It's sad to see you out. Can
I
you
know.
sum up the highlight of this experience for you?
Survivor is so much fun. You know, obviously it breaks you down on a physical level, and that breakdown takes months to recover from. You know,
Mm,
it's a big commitment, but at the same time, and this is a more general point, Sarah, but we live in such a codified world. You know, our lives are so structured. You have a career, you work your career, you have a family, you go to the bar. You know, there are set hobbies and activities, and like the uncharted adventure of the past is gone. You know,
mhm,
in Survivor, I see this rare opportunity to not quite escape society because Survivor re-encodes, society. It's a
mhm.
microcosm, but like to have an adventure, to go your own way, to be able to build a new world, and that's really exciting. And for me, it made Survivor such a joy.
Well, it was a joy to watch you, and I really
Me too.
appreciate your time today.
It was nice to talk to you, Sarah.